Hey guys, welcome back to another four-star coaching series. Been getting a lot of questions on the jerk. It is my favorite movement in the sport. There's just something really nice about this movement. It's like a myriad between dancing and just punching someone in the face. It's got to have a lot of finesse, but also equal amounts of violence and explosiveness to it. So I just kind of want to break things apart. Again, using this OBS system, trying to do some new things. So be patient with me if I do get a little screwy here. But today we're going to be talking about the jerk in its components. We're going to watch some videos. We're going to talk about some pieces to the pie. Um, Really, this is how I teach the jerk, okay? I like to have people understand when I do clinics, seminars, yada yada, or new athletes that there's understanding the structure. If you don't understand the structure and what's going on in the human body, you're not going to understand how to actually jerk well. The next piece is understanding rhythm, okay? Like I said, this is like dancing, all right? It's dancing with dynamite at the end, if you want to think about it that way. There's a pattern to it, there's a rhythm. It needs to be the same every weight, every rep, practice, practice, practice. From the point from where you start learning the press to the push press, that dip and drive rhythm carries on all the way. And it's the same for all movements. We'll talk about some deviations a little bit with some examples, but really overall it's the same. Then we have understanding the drive down into position. So the wording on that's a little finicky and tricky, but really add on jerk, we are driving to get the bar off of us and then pushing ourselves under the weight. We've basically maxed out on how high we can drive the bar. Now we got to figure out how to kind of wedge ourselves. I hate to use that term, but fidget ourselves under the bar, whether we're doing a power, a split, or a squat jerk. So the first thing we want to talk about is understanding our structure, okay? This is the base of the foot. This is my really crude drawing of the setup. All right, as you can see, we kind of have this trapezoidal shape. All right, and the feet are angled out. This is obviously just a drawing. Don't get picky and pull out your goddamn protractors. But you're not toes forward. Toes forward makes the athlete generally going to have a roll forward into the front of their feet, into the toes, which is just actually going to project you forward. So we don't want that. We want to stay nice and in the middle foot as we dip and drive. Okay, so again, we have our 3 points of contact, big toe, little toe, heel. Those are where we want to keep the balance on our jerks, on every variation jerk, right? Some coaches might get tricky. I do it sometimes to fix like extreme cues and tell the athlete to kind of shift the weight to the outside of their feet. A good cue I heard was like, think of jumping your feet laterally, especially on like power jerks, because a lot of athletes have a tendency to go forward on those. That is, again, because they're rolling forward in the front of their feet. So this is the base, all right? Again, we talk about understanding structure. The ground is where it all begins, all right? Because that's where you're loading the weight. That's going to dictate how your torso stacks on top of yourself, all right? When we do this, we're going to move to an example, all right? Again, none of the videos on here I have taken. I don't take credit for them all. I'm super thankful for YouTube and the internet and all the people out there putting great content. Hopefully someone will use this video one day and be able to thank me. But the video we're going to watch is by lifter Tarokity, who's a Ukrainian lifter back in the day. But we're going to watch the power jerk. That's perfect pausing time. And he's going to be talking about the power jerk. Now, in my gym with my athletes and our athletes we have at 4-star, I have many years now made our athletes power jerk 3 to 4, even 5, 6 months before we teach them the split. Because there's so much balance work going on in this movement and time to learn how to appropriately drive out of it, that I've come to just make it kind of the standard for our business to where athletes will power jerk until we are happy with them, and then we'll teach and introduce the split jerk. It's just there's so many training pros to it that people can't counter argue it. But let's look at the movement, what we have here. We see again, all right, nice balance in the midfoot. Knee is just slightly over the toes. That's about as deep as we want to go, guys. All right, a lot of times athletes, here's what happens is they are hitting this depth, but they have such tight ankles, they're losing the heel, and that makes us roll into the front of our feet. So those of you that think ankle flexibility is not a real thing, it's bullshit, it's minor, we don't have to pay that much attention to it, you're wrong. Get off your high horse and start fixing your ankles, because the ankle may be the thing that's fucking up your squats, your cleans, your jerks, your snatches. End rant. Next, we see this nice shelf position. All right, talking on the structure, we have to have a rack that supports the load, not a rack that is comfortable to us. Those are two different things. Here we see 4 points of contact. Hand, delt, delt, hand. That's going to give us a platform. The lats are holding these elbows into place with other muscles, and the elbow is going to be in front of the delt, in front of the bar. We don't want to be stacked when we're dipping. You can, and again, we'll see some examples. You can do that once you have the rhythm and the timing and the setup for it, but it takes a while to develop. Generally, this is going to be the rack we see. Now, sometimes a big flaw we see since we're on it is these elbows way out in front. This is what I call a front squat jerk. All right, it's very common to see this, no offense, but in CrossFitting gyms where the coaches don't necessarily have time to hit everyone up because they have a class of 15, 30 people. Unfortunately, again, that was my background, but we don't want this rack because we actually have to unfold it, which is going to make forward momentum on the bar before we drive. So this is a great rack position. The next thing to note is his torso is upright. All right, a lot of athletes, they will keel forward as they dip into this position. They don't have either the lower or upper back flexibility to maintain the posture, so they keel over, and then once they drive, that bar is being projected forward. We don't want that. All right, so we're going to watch this a couple times. Take note at the rhythm of responding to the bottom of the dip. This is a stretch reflex we're taking advantage of. He goes down, the muscles coil, we fire out with appropriate timing to get a nice blast. All right, so let's watch this a couple times. Okay, so we're going to take it here. We're going to pause it, go slower down a little bit. Let's take it down to 0.25. Now, what you're going to watch is as he drives, he's going to follow through against the bar. So this is, again, guys, as kids, if you're old enough, we have two types of energy, right? We have potential, kinetic. Potential is what we store up. Kinetic is what we send into an object. All right? So potential is what he's doing right here. We have potential energy being built up. His legs are ready to do something with this loaded energy. We need to project it, kinetic energy, into the actual steel of the barbell. That's going to be done with the torso. A lot of you guys think that are just because of habits, you do it with your hands. It is the torso that drives into the bar. Whether you want to think delts, torso, that's nuances. As long as the torso is stacked, it'll do the job. Okay, he's propelling that bar with his body. That's what actually is making the legs drive the bar. Jerks are not upper body movements. Repeat after me. Jerks, I wish I had like the bouncing ball on the screen. Jerks are not upper body movements, all right? They are lower body movements. Weightlifting is a leg dominant sport, guys, all right? The other thing to note before we move on to our jerk variants, because the power jerk is so quintessential to the split jerk, is that watch how he follows through into the steel. He doesn't float the bar. Floating the bar is a big nuance athletes do. They dip, they drive, and they just let whatever happen. Greg Everett, again, great quote. Nothing simply happens in the sport. You have to make it happen as the athlete. You have to follow through this energy into the bar because what starts to happen is you start to push under it. He's pushing and he lowers his hip because he pushes himself under the bar. Okay, so again, great movement, power jerks. All right, we're going to watch some film of Arlie Mendez, who did represent Cuba. I think the Cuban weightlifting team is outstanding. I think they're probably one of the most undervalued or underrated teams out there. Just really good movement. The whole way they select athletes and move and pick and stuff like that. But we're just going to watch some footage here. Take note as we watch these other lifters how they all move with the same fluidity at every weight. All right, that's a big nuance. I'm not going to rant on it too much, but each weight they're doing the same rhythm pattern. So you see a big pop off the shoulder, gets in the position. Even at this lighter bar, guys, you can see he's pushing down against the steel. Nice jerk, pushing against the steel again. Okay, get a nice side angle here. Okay, So again, we see this nice stacked position. His torso is upright. He's squeezing all his core. Nice midfoot. Beautiful jerk. Okay, we'll slow that down a little bit. Watch it and then move on to our next athlete. Beautiful stack. And here's our other one. Again, take note, the rhythm. It's all about the rhythm, the structure, the drive down into that position. Nice big step out. Okay, so again, we're going to see now a variation on the jerk. Okay, weightlifting is down to you as the athlete. There's no one cut mold for every body type. Okay, you have to find your body type, your shape and structure. Luis Mosquera here, all right, he's well-known lifter, but we're going to see what people have dubbed the Colombian jerk setup. All right, it's not just Colombia. There's a lot of countries that do it. It's for a certain body type, body frame. He has the range of motion to support the rack. What he's doing is basically taking a wider stance in his setup for the jerk that's going to shorten the length of the movement. Shortening the length of the movement, we do what? We lessen the time of the bar having to travel. We lessen the distance the bar has to travel. So if we push ourselves under effectively, we have to do, by definition, less work. Less physical work makes you less tired. So we see this positioning. Now, in this position, he's still following the structure rules. We have structure, we have midfoot held. Let's make this bigger. Midfoot's held, structure stacked, elbow is slightly in front of the bar, hands, 4 points of contact. We're good to go. As long as he maintains balance, he has a shelf that will appropriately drive the bar in a vertical fashion. And it's a good lift. So as we're watching this, right here you can see very quickly he's pushing down against the steel. That's why I wanted to show this video. This wider grip, he's able to push a little bit earlier because his positioning to start that shove under the bar. Boom, he's already pushing under. And he continues, you can see all this musculature going. He's continuing to press against the steel. At no point has he let up on the metal. It drives me fucking nuts, I'm sorry. You have to keep acting upon the bar. Guide it. All right, so that's Luis. Okay. Quo is probably one of the most technical lifters of our time. We're going to watch her and then one other lifter. But let's go ahead and watch her lifts. All right, these are 3 different reps at a competition. All right. Now, the biggest thing to note, again, we saw the lifter pop the bar up, get into position. It is not just keep the bar where the clean is. You as the athlete need to find your position that you are best to drive in. Not what's comfortable, but what's best to drive in. Okay, let's look at our stacks. Boom, all 3. There we go, all 3 are set up now. Stacked midfoot, stacked midfoot, stacked midfoot. Now, Ko has one weird thing going on. She has a tendency to keep very forward feet. All right, this, I'm going to backtrack, ankle flexibility. If you have superior ankle flexibility, you can do this and maintain balance. You won't get tilted forward. All right, most people don't have that though. That's why we tell you guys to turn outward, because it will help you stay back in your heels because you have bad ankle flexibility or just not good enough to maintain a forward position. So we have our stack here. We're set up, set up, set up. Elbows in front, bar is on 4 points of contact, steel. Let's watch the rhythm at 3 different weights. She dips with the bar, responds to the bottom, and then you're gonna see her drive with her torso into the steel. And then you can physically see her acting upon the bar to push herself under the steel and continue to lock into place. Going on with this third one, right? Okay, let's watch that again. So this is where we can get kind of nitpicky again. Fantastic lifter, so I'm by no means ever bashing anyone. That's that world. Watch kind of what happens here at this heavier load. All right, boom, boom, boom. We can see a really good difference in the lighter load the medium load, the second attempt, and the third attempt, okay? We see these weights get more difficult, so the drive becomes lessened. She has to now drive harder down. So she's enacting more force to try to, like I said earlier, wedge herself under this bar. Now what you're going to see is on these two, she follows through really well. She's experienced at these loads most likely. She's done them multiple times. This one over here, I wouldn't doubt she's done it before. She just has a little bit more struggle on it because she's not as familiar with it. All right, she's also fatigued, etc. She does make the lift, but watch how hard and how much harder because she does not follow through better, like on these two. That bar stays a little bit in front and it becomes a big struggle. So again, we still see good structure, still see good shape, but that bar is technically a hair in front. And she's got to really fight with these shoulders. Again, why we're pressing up, not just floating, because she has followed through. She's able to continue to enact force on the bar and make the goddamn lift. That is why that is so important, folks. I hope that makes sense. And then just because our girl Lydia, all right, very unique jerk. All right, she responds to the bottom, but she also in this video does a really cool thing that most of you, I hope one day get to experience. It's called bar whip. All right, learning how the steel moves with you can be very advantageous when it comes to physics and really driving out of the hole in these movements. So we're going to watch the lift. But you can see right there that that bar bends on her. And she's actually going to catch that curve because that steel is going to want to go the opposite way. Once it bends, she times it beautifully with the bottom and then punches into the bar. So she doesn't even really drive that hard out of it. She's using that bar whip to really help her punch and assist and snap jerk, as I call it, into that position. Time. Comes down. Boom. Responds. Follows through. Continues to push up, 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 up through the shoulders, not the little wrist, and make that jerk. Another beautiful lift. All right, guys, so hopefully this helped. All right, I know I went over a lot. It's a little bit longer of a video. But, guys, I'm telling you, the jerk is all those basic components, okay? It's all these basic components that you need to just kind of focus on that is going to allow you to do better jerks, all right? If we have better understanding of the structure, we have a better understanding of the rhythm, and we understand that it's not just drive up into the moon, we're going to do a lot better at this lift. I hope this helps you. Please like, subscribe to the YouTube. Leave comments and questions if you have them. Share this, please. It'll help me. And can't wait to make the next one.